Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, kids, welcome back. It is, it's model day. It's Monday. It's new model day. I will tell you that I have a bigger kit incoming. I have a kit, not to take away from this wonderful kit that I'm working on this week. I have a kit incoming that is being printed as we speak, a little bit larger than anything I can print here. And we'll be spending a good chunk of time on that for the next maybe a couple, 3 weeks. I don't know how, until I get it, how elaborate it's going to be. So I'm looking for something that I can fit in this week and still have a good amount of fun with. It is something that was missing from my collection. I have monsters, I have robots, I have vehicles, I have pretty girls, I have ugly men, I have everything in between. I don't have a single dinosaur. The closest I would say I have to a dinosaur is the wonderful Dewback kit from Stan Arts, which has that same type of reptilian skin to it. But I don't have an actual, dinosaur in my set anywhere. And it's one of those things I've kind of gauged it like armor and ships and boats and tanks and things like that, because there are people who make their bones and people who make their livelihoods, people who are expert at painting dinosaurs. I am not one of those people. There are people who will look at this build this week, and they will point out all the things that I got wrong with it. Frankly, it's not gonna cost me any sleep at all, because I'm going to be doing this kit, and I'm going to be doing it for the fun of it. This is a kit, I will tell you, let's go ahead and you've seen the cover. It is the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex from X Plus. This kit was sent to me, I will tell you that. This kit was gifted to me by my wonderful friend and sometimes patron, Phil Siegel. Phil sent me this kit. He said, I don't know whether he's making a snide comment. I wouldn't put it past him, sending this old fart a dinosaur kit. But it's something that he knew I wouldn't buy for myself, because dinosaurs traditionally not my bag, man. But this one looks like it could be some fun. It's got a bit of a diorama to it. It's got this back wall. It's got some mixed media in that it's got the fence with the wires you could string for the fence, and it's got a little tiny Ian Malcolm in the front of it. And who doesn't like a good Jeff Goldblum? I love Jeff Goldblum. I don't think he's done a bad movie. Even some bad movies he's been in, he's been the best part of. So, having a little Ian Malcolm is good. And there's no, it's not like there's a Jeep or vehicles or anything like that. It's just a nice wall. When it's done, here's the wall piece I will show you. When it's done, will fit on a shelf. I mean, it'll be long, but it's not deep. So it'll fit on a shelf nicely. And, well, let's get down and meet the parts, for heaven's sakes, while we're at it. And here are said parts. Like I say, here is the wall. The fence, it's got a nice indent for the feet. That's something I always appreciate. I hate when I see model kits of big heavy objects where they're sitting up above the base. They're not sunk into the base. I guess you could say Godzilla is kind of a dinosaur. I just thought of that because of the Godzilla kit that I built, where I also sunk his feet into the base. When I say dinosaur, I'm talking about the non-fictional variety. Even though, of course, Jurassic Park was fiction. I think I'm talking around in circles, but you know what I mean. It is an area where you can get into the sticklers, just like it were an IPMS-worthy subject. Dinosaurs are kind of like I hate to say it, dinosaurs are like a pretty girl, but dinosaurs are like beauty builds. They are, to get right, it can be kind of difficult. So I am not going to be pretending to be John Hammond. I am not, I'm going to do this to the best of my ability, but I'm not going to, you know, crack open a book and research every piece of square, you know, every square inch of hide to see what color things should be. I'm going to paint it like I saw it in the movie and trust that they did their research. But we're, oh, okay, there's the, well, we've got a name plaque. We've got a name plaque. It's the same font as the Bride of Frankenstein. It's that Jurassic Park font that they, well, it's based on the 30s font, but it's the same font that they used on the Bride's name plaque, so I guess I'll have to use that. The logo is such a part of the movie that I would almost have to use it. Plus, it's going to be a spot to allow for some color. But we've got various hide parts. We've got arm parts. I was hoping, but it turns out I don't think I'm going to be able to, because it was going to be dependent on how it was designed. But Malcolm is all in one part. I was hoping I could run a fiber optic up to that and light up his flare, but it doesn't seem to be doable. Even the very thinnest fiber optic would not survive that cutting. So we're not going to light it. What the hey? Here we've got fence parts. Here is the wire for the fence itself. And it looks like we've got an inner body with skins to put over it. That's interesting. So we just put the skins on top of it. Okay. Well, I'm going to start cutting some of these parts off of the sprue and looking at the instructions and see what we've got. But this is a... see, it's 1/35 scale Tyrannosaurus Rex, blah, 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 blah. And we've got some building to do. So let's go ahead and get started on this. And, oh, they see they're doing it just like they did for the Bride. They're showing us how to paint in an eye. That'll be handy, because I don't know a thing about dinosaur eyes. I have the head well underway. What they want you to do is to put the upper palate in and the teeth on the sides, and then these two big side muscles. Those go in all into the top of the head, which blissfully, thankfully, has no seam running down the middle of it. I was afraid they were going to do that. They have engineered this thing marvelously to hide as many joins and seams as possible, and I full-heartedly commend them, at least so far. What I'd like to do is to go ahead and paint up the inside of the mouth on the top and the roof and the back and the gullet here. Get all of this painted up and then attach the tongue. And then, let's see, the tongue goes in like that. And then it all goes together here. But look how wonderfully that seam is hidden. Actually, it looks like that has to go together, and then the tongue can go in. Yeah. But all of the seams are so marvelously hidden here that you only have the natural join lines here. But what I'd like to do is paint that up before we go too much further in. Well, at this point, really, I could prime everything, but paint it up before I attach this bottom jaw. That way I can get into it, get into the areas with the paintbrush before it gets closed up. They're recommending pretty much building the entire thing before you start painting anything. I don't know how wise that is. I would really like to be able to get into here and paint before I close this up. So we're going to treat this much at least as a sub-assembly and put it to the side. And then I'm going to start working on bits like the big body cavity. This here's figure 2. They want you to put the 2 inner halves of the body together, which I have already done. And then you're attaching basically skin plating to that. So we're going to see how well it continues to hide the seam work. And then we'll treat that as we'll see what this joint looks like here. And we'll treat that as another sub-assembly. It says it wants you to put the legs on, the major legs, the back legs. They want you to put those on later too. So maybe we treat the back legs as their own sub-assembly. So not going to be zipping through this, but taking my time. Hello everybody, welcome back. It is Tuesday. It is day 2 on the Jurassic Park kit build, and I've got a lot of the sub-assemblies done. As I've mentioned, it's not a difficult build. And what I've done at this last stage, the white you see, is I've taken a little bit of putty and I've put it in the obvious seams. Now, a lot of the seams are in pretty good shape. They are not noticeable at all. They did a real good job of hiding them, but some of them were, I guess, unavoidable. I don't know how much I can depend on the paint and the filler primers to take care of. So there's some of these that are, like I said, unavoidable. And I'm just scraping off the high spots now. And I might have to go back in and refill a couple spots. This I thought was a neat idea. In case you didn't want to use the whole Jurassic Park diorama, they've given you a piece that you can use as a stand and just make your dinosaur as just as a dinosaur and not tie it into the movie at all. They must be confident in their accuracy as a Tyrannosaurus Rex kit. I'm looking at my joints from yesterday. Of course, I won't know until I have put the primer coat over these just how well I have taken care of these seams. Still haven't put the legs on yet because there's an amount of work that needs to get done inside there before we put the legs on, because once you get the legs in place you won't be able to get to them. So let me fill a little bit more of the putty in just on that. That's probably the most obvious joint. Obvious, it's a knee joint, but the most obvious gap there, or seam there. So I'm going to take care of that. And what you don't see is the big diorama piece, because I've actually started putting the primers on that, since that back wall is pretty much, concrete, and gray is pretty much the color it's going to be. All I need to do really is to paint the muddy road in front of it, which will be fun because I've got some splash mud that I can use on there and make it look really nice. Got my Tiny Malcolm done. There's my Tiny Malcolm. And that's pretty much it. I think what I'd like to do at this point, here was some place I noticed that I really needed to put some filler in, and that was in the bottom of the mouth. Now, even though there's a tongue that covers up a lot of that, the seams that were, actually you got to put the tongue in after you put the two pieces together. The seam that was there, the bits were kind of obvious, and you were going to see those really obviously, so wanted to take care and smooth that out a little bit. And I want to paint, as I said yesterday, I want to paint the inside of the mouth before I seal it up. So yeah, let's get, I think this is dry enough to, yeah, it's dry enough to paint. I hate using rattle can on that, but outside of just painting it with some gray Tamiya, I really don't have a better alternative. So I think what I'd like to do is just spray inside of the mouth and get that ready to paint, and get all of these pieces primed. Okay, I put in some dark brown over the road. Started with a little flat earth, and then went with a walnut wash over it. I guess it's, no, sorry, it's dark brown. And yeah, it's a little dark. I mean, A, the scene that we're depicting takes place at night, so there's that. But B, it's also, I want it to kind of disappear when it comes up to the colors of the T-Rex himself, which are going to be a lighter brown. You've seen the color of the plastic. That's usually a pretty good indication. When they make something out of plastic or styrene, they generally, most model makers will generally, unless they're just going to do gray because they know you're going to paint it, they like to go with something that's a similar color to the final thing. And this is more of the brown that the dinosaur is going to be, and for that reason, you want it. You want this base to kind of recede from it. So the brighter browns will be on the dinosaur himself, and here's where the little tiny Ian goes. I'm not wild about that positioning because I think it should be something more like that. So we're going to put him, and we're going to put the big dinosaur in here, and we've got the nameplate that goes there, which I'm going to make look like stone rather than dirt. So that's going to be gray with the logo on top of it. What I'm thinking is the next thing to do would be to maybe go ahead and finish off the base while the primer is drying on. Not finish it, but work on the base while the primer is drying on the dinosaur himself. As you can see, we're getting some progress here. Got most of the body joined together with the exception of the head here. Kind of setting them in place to see how everything is looking. And I've done another round of putty and thinned the putty down with a little bit of the MEK, brushed it into the cracks. We're going to let that set up, and then we'll come back and sand it and start doing the main painting on that tomorrow, and we should start getting a good run at the head. Yeah, it's coming along pretty quick. Greetings, fellow babies. Welcome back to Jurassic Park. It is Wednesday, and work is continuing in small circles. I'm doing that thing where I'm going around to touching various edges of everything and not really getting any one thing finished. So I need to stop doing that, and I need to concentrate on a single thing. That would be nice. I basically put in some splash mud and some well, it's the Valet. It's the brown splash mud and some I get light brown splash mud, mixing that up, painting some black in for the puddle. I'm gonna put a flat over this. Even though it's a wet, raining night, the mud is wet. It should be glossy. I got to put a gloss over the pond or the puddle there. I've kind of filled in the footprint here because this one you need because of the dinosaur sitting in it. But this one, it's kind of a joke to have it so perfectly formed. It should be a little bit deformed. The mud is soft, so it's not going to be the complete exact imprint. I'm making a concession and using the nameplate, but I'm not painting it in. I'm just going to do a bronze and then a copper wash over that, or a dry brush over that. I'm not trying to emulate the red and yellow and black logo. I've got the posts for the fence, or I sprayed them with a dull aluminum, and I am waiting for that to dry. I'll come back in and I'll start working on that fence today. That'll be fun. And yes, this is a sloppy line because it's splash mud. It's mud splashed up on the concrete, and I'm going to go in there with a little bit of a green accent because I did notice last time looking through that clip that there were tiny plants growing in the like in the cracks of the walls and along the edge there, and that'll give me just a nice little green border. I don't know if I'm going to do the thing where I actually use the flocking, not the flocking, but you know, the landscaping stuff, the model railroad stuff. It would be appropriate to do that, and I think it would add a nice little element of texture. I'm just not 100% sure that's the way I want to go. It depends on how thick I want to make that. But I do need to paint in this palm leaf. I've got the track painted in. I'm going to put some silver highlights on that. That's just a coat of dark aluminum, and I'll just do a dry brush to get some track detail to hang out. Most important thing is I've got the first body coat on Thin Lizzy here, and that's a good basic starting color. There's going to be shadows and shading and stripes and all kinds of stuff on that. And I've got the head joined up. I've got the mouth painted. That I think the next step is to go ahead and add that head before we do too much of anything else, because I'm going to need to dress in this neck joint. Plus, I want any body painting, particularly any airbrushing that I do over that joint, I want it to be consistently colored. So that's the thing I'm going to do next, and then we can start adding levels of detail and shadow and shade into the dinosaur skin, and then we'll set that whole dinosaur to the side using this handy base, set him all completely aside, and start working on the fence. Don't mind that blue, what looks like blue. That's some gloss varnish there that I've put over top of the puddle so that it'll gloss up and look nice and shiny. But I've splashed some mud up against the retaining wall there, and I've done it dirty. I've done all the dirt that I'm going to do. I'm still toying with the idea of putting a little bit of green in there because that fern isn't quite enough. If I can just pop some little bits of algae in there, then it will be more balanced. Sorry, I'm coming back. It will be more balanced, I think, visually. And of course, Malcolm goes in here. I've got him done. Happy with him. I may put a wash over his face to bring out some detail, but I'm 90% happy with him. And trust me, 90% is good. I'm going to paint a little bit of detail up in here. But the first thing I want to do to these posts is maybe take a little bit of gunmetal or some spray and just dirty them down just a little bit. I've got the insulators painted brown on the back of these eye hooks. I noticed that the instructions and the box art differ on this. The instructions show quite clearly that we've got parts. We've got one with complete hooks in it, or complete eye loops in it, and then we've got two panels that have just little little C hooks to put the wire in. But if you look at the box, or if you look at the photo on the front, they've cheated. They're lousy cheaters who cheat. They've got two of they've got more. First of all, let's do this. They've got more posts here, but they've got two sets of eye hooks and one that just has a little C hook. So they're cheating here, and I don't like it. That's not a true representation of what you're getting in the model. So these little ones the little pictures look better, but the top picture does not look good at all. So take that off of the table. Well, actually put it back on the table. But I am getting ready to clean everything else off of here and cut those wires and get ready to make with the looping on those. Alrighty, we're starting to wire up the electric fence, and the instructions say to cut 11 segments that are they want 11 segments that are 30 centimeters each, which I know is 300 millimeters, 30 centimeters, and pass them through the fence post to create the fence wires. Do not put the wire in your mouth or lick it, as it contains lead. Lead wiring, sure, why not? Let's see. Also, will wash my hands after I'm done dealing with it. But we are going to uncoil this and cut it into lengths of 300. Okay, I've got my little trusty metric ruler out here, and there's 300 and a wire cutter. One. And we're going to stretch it out to get the curve out of it. But there's 1, 2, and you don't need to see me doing all of this, so we're going to come back after they're all cut. Okay, I've got the segments cut. I've got a little bit left over for some extra fun somewhere down the line. And we're going to start, and it looks like the best way to do is, I've got this backwards, so realizing that, is we're going to start from this. We're going to leave about as much here as where the end of the base is, or the end of the wall is. And I'm going to put just a little drop of CA. I think that's going to be the adhesive of choice is going to be CA on this. And then we'll stretch it down. That's not very elegant, it's not very neat. But since we're joining metal to plastic, I think my only other choice would be maybe the UV glue. But it just sits on top of this little C joint here. It's like a C hook on the back of the post, and then it's got a loop here that it has to pass through, and then it sits on this other end here, and then we allow plenty of slack in it for gappage and whatnot. See, I'm not liking that. That's not let's see if I get a little bit of kicker on that. That's not my weapon of choice. Okay, that's on there now, and I'm not going to put any glue here on the center eye, but we'll glue this one here. And again, these don't have to be anywhere near tight or perfect, because any tension it's going to be lost. It's going to be lost on that side, where it just goes off into nothing. So that's where we're going to have some fun and some drama, but really that's going to look kind of like that and like that. And I'm wondering, let me try the other half. Let me try this, the other side. Let me try doing that with a little bit of the UV glue and see if that's any better. I can get a fairly self-contained bubble of it, just a tiny bit there, and maybe tease it out a little bit with a toothpick, and then hit it with the... That's interesting. What's causing that? You see that? That's weird. It's like a little bit of paint that's reacting to the UV light. Okay, well, that's in. And I can play with this. Do I like that any better? Now this long end, we're going to sculpt that to kind of like just go like that, and then they all kind of break together like that. Okay, let's put some more of these in. Do I want to start with this? And yeah, it's going to look something like that. Okay, I'm going to continue this, and then we'll come back and I'll show you hopefully what they look like when they're all done. Hey, what do you think? I've got all of the wiring in, and then I've got these, you know, just broken and teased down to the side. No, they're not going to be perfect. That's the whole idea. They're broken, so they're not going to be straight across and tight and all of that. And the way I accomplished this was to try to put them in tight, because I know I couldn't do it. So that's how they came out. And I need to paint some detail up here on this post. I'm debating, because I'm good at that. I always second guess myself. This is what it looks like from behind. I'm debating with myself whether I should touch some glue on that center. I like them, but I think just a little bit more stability of centering those would be beneficial. So I think what I need to do is to just run a little bead of the I ended up using UV glue on all of these. It was just easier to work with. Didn't set up as immediately as the CA does. Didn't cause the problems that CA can. And I've got this much left over. I've got a piece left over. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with that. I can coil it up and do something, I suppose. But I think what I'd like to do is just dot each one of those with the UV resin and hit that real quick, and that'll lock in those centers. So this is my concession to the name plaque, because not a fan of name plaques, you know that. But it kind of needed to go there. There wasn't going to be easy to swap out. I hate it when they integrate the name plaque into the base. If they made the name plaque something that you could just leave off the base without hurting it, then 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to use the name plaque. But it was a case where it's got this big old divot in here, and it's more work than it's necessary to fix it. But we've got, so my concession to it is to not paint all the colors in, but to make it look like a bronze copperish metal plaque that goes there. So I'll glue that in place, and that'll be done. This is still drying. This is the gloss medium. I'm sorry, yeah, the gloss medium over the puddle. We've got Malcolm here running for his life. You can't go wrong with a little Jeff Goldblum. And it struck me, just as I went from Independence Day, or Spaceballs, to Independence Day, I went from Independence Day to Jurassic Park, and it's a Jeff Goldblum festival, and he uses the same quote, the must go faster, must go faster, must go faster. He uses that in both movies. I don't know whether that was an in-joke or just a verbal tick of his that he improv, but when he's in the Jeep, it's the must go faster, must go faster. And when he and Will are escaping the mothership, it's a must go faster, must go faster. But here we are. Now, we've got a couple of days worth of work on the lizard. Lizard goes like that on the base, and we finally can get an idea of what the whole thing is going to look like when you place it together. That makes quite the nice little show. It is, it's Wednesday. I've got Thursday and Friday to finish painting him, and I think that is a good amount of work. Oh, that was it. I'm not done. I thought I was done. I'm not done. I still want to put a little bit of green slime, or green smudge, right up against that line there. Maybe some little traces of it. Let me see. I've got green surface primer. That's a nice color. To trace some like mosses growing up the cracks of the cement there. So I've got a little bit green detail work to do, and then the base will be done while that dries. Alrighty, I put a green tinge, a little bit of green algae mold, whatever you want to call it. A little bit of nature reasserting itself, because, life finds, a way. So we've got some greenish going on right here, and around the back of the wall, I gave it some interest with some more of the moss slash slime, because, you're not going to get around to washing the back of the walls, and your jungle is up against the wall there, so you're going to have some growth there. I think the thing to do now is to, I know I'm using CA when I said I wouldn't, but is actually to glue the nameplate in place. There we go. And that gets us to the end of this portion of it. And now we can concentrate on the dino. I'm going to say herself because they were all bred female, you know. But yeah, I'm going to use this little stand while I'm painting because I think it's going to be easier to handle. But I'm going to take the rest of this base and move it off of the table for the remainder of the build so that I can concentrate on the beastie. Morning, kids. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. Yay! And more important than that, it's Dino Day. We get to paint dinos today. And I started early with some pre-shading. And then I hit this with a clear coat, a satin clear coat. Because satin clear coats, they accentuate the colors. Everything I painted on was kind of flat. And this really brings up all the contrast, all the detail. And B, because this thing is going to end up with a satin coat on it anyway to depict the scene of it in the rain. It's going to look wet. So I kind of want to see how those colors are going to be. So what I've got here, and the third part of that is once you've covered it with a clear coat, it makes it easier for you to do washes because washes will seep into the crevices without soaking into the flat paint. They'll go where they need to go, and they're easier to wipe off if you have a satin coat underneath it. And we're gonna look at this, and then we're gonna completely forget it because I want to show you a reference. Okay, here is a reference from the movie. This is a still frame. I'm on YouTube right now, just showing a still frame of it. Now, you have to say, Lou, why are you showing this scene? This isn't the scene that's in the model. Well, the scene that's in the model is also in the dark and in the rain, and that's nice and all, but I want to see what it looks like in bright sunshine, and then you can apply to it, because you could end up spending a lot of time painting something that is an atmospheric effect instead of the actual thing, what it looks like in the rain, as opposed to what it looks like in the sunshine. Now, you also want to say, well, is that the same dinosaur? At one point, Hammond says, we have a T-Rex. Yes, we have a T-Rex. Which makes me assume, since Hammond knows this stuff, that there's just the one T-Rex in the first movie. That they don't have more than one. So if this is the one, then it's the same one that shows up later. And also at the very end, when it sneaks in on tippy toe to get rid of the raptors and destroy the lobby of the building. But it's amazing how when it wants to be heard, boy, you a mile away, there's a stomp and the disruption in the puddle and all of that. But when you want it to sneak up on you, it can come in on tippy toes. Anyway, what we're seeing here is a pretty generic reddish brown, a little bit lighter on the belly, and then these what look like darker, almost tiger stripes going down the tail, and on the spine there's a deep dark recess around the eye of darker color. Not a lot of variation. Now on some of the fatty areas here, the skin is lighter, and it's lighter under the tail, and it's lighter on the belly, like you would, I hate to say, you would assume most reptiles to look like, whether that be a Komodo dragon or even a crocodile or an alligator. You would assume they have lighter skin on their bellies. And again, you see some of that tiger striping going down the spine, and that seems to be the main distinguishing characteristic. And that's what we're gonna carry over. Now, I have noticed on this shot, and maybe we can. Okay, looking at it a little bit different, you see more of the belly here. There's not a real fat or a real thick fold here of skin, like there is on the model. There's like almost this real thick barrier or boundary between the skin color and the side and back color. And pretty much the same, yeah. But this is why I'm using this sunshine reference. Here is that scene from the end of the film. Now it's got a more of a reddish cast to it, and I'm not sure whether that's showing up on film here or on video here, on this video, but here it's showing up a lot redder, and you can forgive that because of the internal, they're matching the internal lighting of the lobby there, but you could see more evidence of the stripage going down, and not much else as far as distinguishing characteristics. As far as, yes, we have the deep eye socket here, and that's pretty much it. That does give me, well, till that sign came down out of the way, it gives me a better idea of the color of that flap there, the flap between the top and bottom jaws. The model has this really thick and fat, where it's more of a membrane here. So that's giving me some guidance there. Again, we can see the length of the tail, we can see the stripage, and that seems to be pretty much it. Now the let me see if that, yeah, now these, you can discount this because that's battle damage from the raptors. Those are wounds there. Those won't be included. One last bit, I am going back to the actual scene. This is something I think I might want to include. There's no high voltage signs that included in the kit, and maybe it'd be fun to print something out and see if I can make it the right size to hang between a couple of the wires to, yeah, something like this, to give a little life in between the background of the cables. This is the scene that's probably closest to the model, actually. If you took the Jeep out of the way, I'm sorry, it's not a Jeep, it's a Ford Explorer. If you took the Ford out of the way, you would get a pretty good idea of the actual model, because we've got Malcolm here with the flare, and the dinosaur, of course, which in this lighting is just a big dark brown mass with the glint of his eyes, and that's all you see. You don't see much until the lightning flashes off of it, but you can see the brilliant highlights on it because it's in the rain and he's wet. But there's Malcolm running away, and that's pretty much, see if I could step this through a little bit. Okay, that's probably the model right there, except his torch hand is way up higher. If we'd have had the truck in there, it would have been a much better, I think, well, it would have been a much more expensive and larger model, but here's the high voltage sign where you can see where you could use it. But this is the pose of the kit. Putting in the stripes now, and I'm using a dark green rather than black, because black, I think it's going to give me too much contrast, even a rubber black. And the green kind of feeds into the, has the right undertones, feeds into the reptile nature of it. I have to say, I love this pose. I just love the running pose that they've chosen with the 1 foot up and the roar and all of that. I did notice that this seems to be, the model seems to be, for lack of a better term, more detailed than the, at least the CG version of the dinosaurs in the scenes, where their skin are more flat and elephant-like or rhinoceros-like, heavy four-footed beasts, but not reptiles. It's more elephant skin in the you know, different color, of course, but more of that texture. And here it's more scaled and more dinosaur skinned. I'm sorry, more alligator skinned. Particularly the underside of the tail here, where you see all of these scales carefully and lovingly brought out. Like, I mean, look at those wonderful scales there. Those don't seem to be apparent in the movie. It's more of a flat overall. I mean, the color's right, but an overall elephant skin. You know, just like a stretched, heavy, leathery skin as opposed to a scale. And I'm only going on the reference in the first movie. I don't know whether I'm assuming they've changed the model for the later films based on better graphics and better scientific data and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the mission statement. The mission statement is to recreate this scene from this movie. And in this movie, that level of detail doesn't seem to be in the model of the T-Rex. Now, I've got a lot of dark going on here, and this is darker than it's going to end up being. I'm waiting for this to dry a bit, and then I'm going to do some light dry brushing over the top of it. I've got to work in the teeth here. I've got to lighten up this membrane here. But see how thick this membrane is. The tongue is not in place yet. But how thick they've got that as opposed to what looked like a much thinner flap in the film. So we've got a dry brush highlighting pass to go over all of this, and then we've got, of course, to paint in the eyes and the teeth and all of that. We'll put another coat of clear over that before we get to the eyes. Taking a few minutes on the computer to whip up a quick version of the high voltage sign. I matched it to the design they used in the video clip. I printed it out a three different sizes just to have some buffer room to see whether I had eyeballed how big it needed to be, and I'm trying to gauge whether or not any of these will do or whether I need to do another size. I think this one here, my original size, is going to be good enough. I made one larger and one smaller just to check. But and I did this so that I could fold it over and attach it to the cable. Let me cut that out and see how it looks. I won't be able to, since it's only paper, I don't know if I'll be able to age it. I might have to just spray it with a little something to age it, but I don't want to soak it, or else it'll, you know how paper gets when it gets wet. I don't want it to do that. But I might have to smudge it up a little bit, maybe with a colored pencil or something. You know, I think I might even can go a little bit bigger. This is the kind of hanging there. Now, I folded it in half and sat it over top of the wire, and that's not really how it hangs. It hangs off of the bottom of the wire. But if I was going to hang it like that, I might have to glue it to the top of a wire, or maybe kilt it at an angle, just like one of the I kind of like it at an angle where one of the little clips is gone, but the other one is still hanging on. I kind of like that. So do that in camera here a little bit better so you can see it. So if you're only going to attach it like that, then I'll give me a couple of spots that I can glue it, and maybe use some microcrystal clear. Ooh, that's an idea. Since I've got so many of these printed, let me see what it looks like if I brush on a fixative. Yeah, I'm going to try to brush on a fixative and see whether or not I can do that and stiffen it up and weather it a little bit. I'm ready to put the 10,000 volt sign up. Now, I took a piece of, I printed off like you saw, and then I coated both sides with microcrystal clear. And what that did is it thickened up the paper a little bit to maybe where it might be an in scale plastic sign, and I'm debating the placement. I know it has to go down fairly low, but I'm debating whether I've got everything. I've got all the elements in place here, so that I can see where does it work better? Does it work better here on this bay, or does it work better in this bay? I think that's kind of full, so I'm thinking this needs to be right about there. And now I'm deciding, do I want to make it look like it's hanging off of this strand of the frame, or do I want to make it look like it's been kicked over and hanging down? And I think the kicked over and hanging down kind of feeds into this, the broken pipes a little bit. I like it. I'm trying out the angle now. Do I like it better this way or this way? And I'm liking it better with the danger side up. So at this point, it's just a question of, do I want to put it, if I put it at an angle, then I can also glue, let me remove the dinosaur now. If I put it at an angle, that means I can also use the next strand down as reinforcement. I can kind of glue it across two strands like that, where it's touching the top corner there, but basically it's hanging off the, I like that. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, I think I can get away with just using more microcrystal clear on it, rather than trying to use any other CA or it's paper, so it needs to have a PVA glue. So it's either going to be, good old-fashioned Elmer's, or microcrystal clear or cockpit glue. What I like about the microcrystal clear is it's not very watery. It's not going to distort the paper, I don't think, as badly. So I'm just getting a little bit, I'm trying to clean out the neck of the bottle here. I'm sorry you're not seeing that on camera, all that sexy work. But what I think, it's because there's not enough left down in there. Oh, I went to my soon-to-be closing hobby shop yesterday to pick over the remains, like the sad vulture that I am. And I was able to pick up some more Tamiyas on off colors, but all of the good stuff, trust me kids, all of the good stuff is gone. So what I can do, and that's sad, you can't help but feel bad about something like that happening. So we're going to take a little bit of this, we're going to wipe it on the back of this sign and up here in the corner. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, I'm going to position it right across the ladder like that, and that's how it's going to hang. I'm going to lower it just a tiny bit now that I've got it in place. You lower it just a tiny bit so only that top corner is on that. So there you go. That looks good. Lovely. The buff slash desert yellow as a highlight color was too light. That was not a good idea. I have backed up to using the flat earth, at least initially. There may be some yet even higher spots that I want to do with that lighter color, but that was too much of a jarring difference between what I had and where I was going. Like I said, there's always room to go that far, but not right out of the gate. So I'm just using the flat earth over just an overall, and it's I'm concentrating on the high spots that are in the sculpt. I know the sculpt isn't the right term, but in the kit, and particularly, I'll make sure I get most of it, almost everything off of the brush when you're doing this. But particularly these ridges around the eye and on the forehead. Now it seems to be, I don't know if that's the, I don't know enough about Tyrannosauri, but that seems to be where most of the detail is, and I'm wondering if that's just where the modelers spent more time on the detail, figuring people want to the face is, being more important. There seems to be more bumps and crevices around the face where the paint will naturally want to collect. And I'm still maintaining this two-tone look. There's an undercarriage of a more yellowish color on the underside here, but I'm using the same flat earth as the highlight color, so it's unifying the top and bottom a little bit more, but the underlying color is still there. And you just have to, honestly, when you're doing dry brushing is one of my favorite things to do, because you get into it and you just have to surrender to where the pattern wants to go, where the highlights are. You can try to, it's like the impossible mission of trying to paint something randomly. You can't paint something randomly. I mean, we did experiments back when I was in art school of trying to use your other hand. Don't use your dominant hand when you're painting, and that'll introduce randomness to it because you don't have the same control over it. But when you try to consciously put random elements in something, you will invariably want to make a pattern to it or make a symmetry to it, because that's human nature. And just forgetting about all of that is sometimes is the hardest part. So when you are dry brushing, yeah, you can still find yourself, making sure your coverage is even and all of that. But a lot of times is if you just surrender yourself to the process, you will find that your random results are much more satisfying. I'm really digging this. Now I'll put a lighter coat, maybe even over the belly there. But I'm really loving that. Really loving that. I got no fight with that whatsoever. And I gotta whiten the teeth, obviously. But I am digging this like butter. Not that I dig butter, but you know how it goes. So I will lighten up the scales that are on the belly here a little bit. But man, and knowing when to walk away. This doesn't have to take forever. This is a very quick process. Don't think just because you're not spending 3 hours on it that what you're doing doesn't have value. I would rather get it right and get out of there than to say, oh well, that couldn't be any good because you didn't spend 5 hours painting it. Well, if you do it right, or if you catch the right wave, or if you mixed your paints right, or if you got a good sculpt, or if, any one of a million reasons, you don't have to take. Time does not. I guess what I'm trying to say is time does not necessarily equal quality. You can have a really good result in the first 5 minutes and stop. Or you can, labor over something all day and it still looks like crap. The idea is to go in with a goal and then, take yes for an answer if you get that goal early. Morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. The last work day on the Tyrannosaurus Rex 1/35 scale from X+. We just got a couple of things to finish up and we'll be done. I want to show you how I have been working on the mouth here. Now, the secret is that you don't make, white pearly teeth. If anything, they're going to be, ivory at the best, even though this is a... Now, if you're gonna believe the in-universe story of this dinosaur, we don't know how old this dinosaur is, do we? I don't think it was stated. Certainly, it's enough to be an adult. I don't know what the lifespan of a T-Rex is, or whether it was, genetically modified to come out as an adult, or sped up in the growth process. You would figure if Hammond was working on this is already 10, 15 years in the making. I don't think it's something that they hatched full grown. Certainly the raptors didn't hatch full grown. I don't know if in the lab the original ones were, made adult. But because, he's not lived exactly a tough life, his teeth are in pretty good shape. They are... they're good and sharp, and they're not missing. He hasn't had too many hardships in his life, not too many battles. So his teeth are in pretty good shape. Plus, you would assume that since this is a park, then they are, assets of the park, that they would be looked after quite diligently, shall we say. At this point, the T-Rex is the main attraction at the park, so they would want it to be in the best condition. So the teeth are in good shape. There's not too much, there's no rot, there's no missing teeth. They're all nice in there. So that's what we've done. We've put them in, we painted them up nice. I've got to put the tongue in. I still don't have the tongue in his mouth. I was going back and forth on the general finish of the dinosaur, and yes, it's true. The scene that we're depicting takes place in the rain at night. It's clearly not night when you're looking at it. I decided not to spray him with a gloss like he would be in the rain. And the reason is simple. When I did that earlier, before I did this last set of dry brushing, when I did that, it looked like a toy. It looked like a dinosaur toy. The scale of it, no pun intended, the scale of it was wrong for the high gloss of it. So I decided to go back to just doing the satin finish that I kind of did it before I did this last round of dry brushing. And we're going to leave it as is for the very reason that I don't want it looking like a toy. Now the ground is wet. We have our puddle here. I didn't gloss up Malcolm either, even though he would be in the rain and would be wet. I didn't put any gloss on the stone wall back, or the concrete wall back there, for the same reason. It's more about a depiction of the event rather than a devotion to the recreation of the event. I think if we had made everything glossy, of course, by that token, we'd have to turn all the lights off and look at it in the dark. It cheapens it. It cheapens it when I sprayed everything gloss. So that's why that's why we're not doing a gloss. I am going to put a gloss on his tongue and on the inside of his mouth, but that's because, you want that kind of to stand out. The last thing to do on him really is to finish the eyes. I got a little dot of black to go on the front of those eyes, and then the eyes will get a gloss, because I always put a gloss over the eyes and the lips and things like that. So let's go ahead and get the tongue installed, and then once that's installed, we can I'm going to continue to use this little base. I think it's neat. The last thing I want to do is I want to put some mud on the bottom of his foot, because he's running in the mud. So there's some mud splash that needs to go on his feet. Once they're in place, I will glue him down to the base permanently, and then I can do some mud and around it to kind of blend him into the base as it is. I think we're finished with the dinosaur. Now I've got to put a gloss over the eyes when they dry. But I'm liking those eyes. I think that that does exactly what I needed to do. They're a little bit bright, maybe. Maybe it could be darkened down a little bit. Maybe I'll put a sepia wash over those. But the eyeliner that I put on, I think helped define the shape. But that tongue looks good in there, nice and wet. And all that's left really is to, like I said, put a gloss over those eyeballs and then sink him into the base. And we'll be ready to break the champagne bottle over this one and launch it. Start clearing off some shelf space for it. I just put a small wash of yellow ochre over the eyes. I thought they were maybe a little too bright. I thought the whites in them were a little bit too white. So I dulled those down a little bit. The clear gloss was maybe a little much. So last thing to do is to glue this foot down to there, and I'm wondering if that's going to be necessary or whether I can just push them in place, and is that going to be secure enough? I mean, it'd be nice if I ever have to transport this to be able to pull them off the base, but neither he nor Malcolm are glued down, and I think that's inviting trouble at this point. So we're going to get a wee bit of the old El Paso. I'm not going to use the, I don't think we're going to use the MEK. I don't know. Is it worth it? Yeah, let's pull the MEK down. I cleaned up and now everything is out of arm's reach. So we do this and start with Malcolm here, and because you don't want to leave Malcolm in the middle. Once everything is down, I'm going to go over the feet with a splash mud to blend it into the background here, or the base. Okay. And a little push into the mud. That's the nice thing about the MEK. It lubricates the plastic, makes them slide together, and then it melts it. I just need to make sure that I am holding him up. I don't want him to go too far forward when he was sitting by himself. There we go. Let's see, that's no bueno. Let's prop something under him. There we go. Let him dry in that position. So I'm trying to simulate the lighting in the movie, and I don't have the wherewithal to do that completely, and I don't want to start dousing my workbench with water to simulate the rain. So I just want to show you the final thing, kind of in as close to circumstances as I can recreate. But let's skip all this nonsense and turn the lights back on. Okay, here's the lights on. I might have to readjust the white balance a bit, but this is it. This is the final build, or the final results of the X Plus Jurassic Park T-Rex build, with little Ian Malcolm running for his life in front of the vicious T-Rex. Look at that face. Look at it. And that, my friends, does it for this week. I know this dinosaur would not pass muster with the professional people who paint dinosaurs for a living. They're probably throwing things at the screen, if they even watch me at all. But you know what? It's close enough for me. It's my first attempt at doing a dinosaur, and I don't think it turned out that shabby. Not so bad. Not so bad. This was a fun kit to build. You don't think there's a lot to it, and it really is something that if you can pick one of these up, and it's a good test bed if you want to learn about doing dry brushing or washes. The added element of the fence, that's a fun part. I really enjoy that, and I respect the fact that they give you two different stands if you want to display it without the fence and all of that going on. You certainly can if shelving or if space is an issue. The uber detailer in me really still wishes I could light up that flare, but I don't see how. I mean, it is the length of a fiber optic. How, if there had been a way, if they had cast Ian's arm in two parts, where you could, feasibly get in there without having to bore a hole all the way through it, it might have been worth it. But if he would have been a little bit bigger, maybe. But all in all, I think it's a good kit. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the build. I hope you did. And join us next week when if all things go well and the mail cooperates as it should, we should be beyond the stars next week. That's the only hint I'll give you. It may not arrive for 2 or 3 days, so I might just be spinning my wheels next week until I get a delivery. So we'll find out. We'll play that as it lays. So until then, y'all be good. Oh, what was I going to say? I was going to make some cheesy remark about a model 65 million years in the making, but I couldn't find a good place to squeeze it in, so I just shoehorned it right there. So I hope you don't mind. Until next week, y'all be good, be safe, be smart, take care of yourselves, and we'll be back here next week.